folks. I did it right, I think. Anyway, today it's just me. I gave all my friends a break. I'm going to start off by reading a couple of questions and answering a couple of remarks that I didn't get a chance to from a couple of people that are always calling in, so I just wanted to get them out of the way. Then we're going to go into one or two other things, a lot about bullshit, and then we're going to get into HISA. So the first, we'll get these out of the way real quick. I'm going to have a lot of pictures today. Since I learned how to do it, I'm putting more and more pictures up. And pertaining to HISA, I put a lot of pictures up for you to see, and probably would help you because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to explain everything that I want to explain, and maybe the pictures will help me out. That's why I should have finished school. Anyway, let me answer these one or two questions first. And this first one is from Robert W. He says, your program is like the hot stove league of harness racing. When Grundy pinned you to the rail at Monticello, was he sober? I had a brush or two with drivers who were heavy drinkers. Maybe drivers should be given a piss test after the races as well. Well, I'm sure that they're given a test before the races, and maybe after the races as well. But Grundy, there was no reason for him to. Folks, for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, I was in a race one day and going to the half at Monticello. My horse, I was locked in. I was sitting third on the rail. He was right on. There were two tiers. He was on the outside of me. And my horse was choking down really bad. I mean, I couldn't hold on to him anymore. I had his chin in his chest. He was starting to roar and then wheeze, and he was getting wobbly. And I looked over to Jimmy, who was right alongside of me. I said, Jimmy, I'm in trouble. You got to let me out. And he says, just sit there. You'll be all right. And I said, Jimmy, you got to let me out. And he just looked straight ahead. And in the next 2 or 3 steps, my horse went down and they snapped his neck, caused a wreck with guys behind me. So there's such a thing as professional courtesy out there. Aside from everything else that goes on, when you see a guy in trouble, 100% of the time, maybe 99 and 9, the guy will give you a break and get you out of trouble. And finally, after 100 years, 150 years, they finally decided to take the hub rails out. And if there was no hub rails, that horse would still be alive and nobody would have got hurt. So, Robert W., I hope that answers your question. Grundy, to me, was one of the hardest workers up there. He was a good driver, good trainer. Now, he was a drunk, but anyway, he should have let me out. Okay, the next question is from Mark, who sends a lot of comments in and information in, and he says I owned a few in the early '80s, won a few New York Sire Stake races. Did you know young trainer Eddie Hart? And he also says, I had a few horses with Danny Capello Jr. after Eddie. Did I know Eddie Hart? I knew Eddie Hart when he first started in Monticello. He was just a young kid. He had maybe, I think, 4 or 5 horses by himself up the hill from me. I was in Barn A at the time. And he was having a rough time of it. He was a young kid in the business. And he come to me one day with his father. And I don't know if he's watching this, but I hope he is, because I'm glad it turned out for him. And he'll remember this. He came down to my barn with his father, and I think he came to me because every once in a while he'd come down to my barn and ask me questions if I could help him with rigging or whatever. So maybe a few months later, he come down to my barn with his father, and his father asked me, he says that Eddie really respects you, and he has to make a decision. Should he, he's having a tough time of it now. He's not sure if he's going to make it. What do you recommend? And I said, if he really loves the business, just tell him to stick it out. It'll get better. And anytime he needs any help, just come right down to my barn. And he stayed in the business, and he became a superstar. He became very, very successful, and good for him. He's a really, really good kid, a nice kid, respectful kid. And I wish him a lot of luck. And then he asked me if I knew Danny Capello Jr. Yeah, I raced with Danny's father at Monticello. He was a regular up there, and the kid Danny Jr. He went to Pocono. I think he made Pocono his home base. So them are the two things I wanted to get out of the way. Many of the other ones I answered through the email. So now I'm going to talk about the real world out there, and I have a lot of notes. You'll see me looking down. I have tons of notes because I did some investigative work. I kind of prepared for this show, which is the first time I ever did. I think I have almost 100 podcasts out there. I show up like 2 minutes before I hit the on button, and I just wing it, even when I have guests on. But this was the first week I kind of prepared a little bit. I got a little because I was curious myself, and so you're going to see me looking down because I could never remember everything. And this is all brand new to me. You'll see what I mean. But before we get into the heavyweight stuff, I just want to say this because I want to show you a couple of things. I'm going to talk about the real world and the greed and corruption and the incompetence and the bullshit that goes on every day in businesses and in all walks of life. And years ago, and I mentioned this once before, years ago, I put together a corporation, and it was called the Bullshit Club. And what I did was I spent a lot of money because I had attorneys write all the rules and regulations, what you could do and what you can't do. And basically, this is basically what it is. It's not very clear because I just took a picture of it. And this was the first little introduction. I left a lot of it out. And it said, I'll read it to you. It says, the Bullshit Club is a new, aggressive, rapidly growing club engaged in all forms of entertainment properties with strong personal and professional ties in the entertainment industry. With offices in New Jersey, Florida, and California, we are currently creating and producing television series and documentaries. Among the projects we are presently developing is a docuseries based on bullshit. Bullshit in the world we live in today. Bullshit has become an accepted phenomenon. The increase in the amount of bullshit in contemporary life today is astonishing. Husbands, wives, lovers, friends, family, presidents, politicians, preachers, lawyers, reporters, corporate executives, and countless others have said not what they know to be true, but what they want you to believe. Not what is, but what works. One reason I wrote this, so one reason I believe is the communications revolution. Cable TV, social media, and the internet have created an unprecedented demand for information, and there simply isn't enough truth to go around. So what we get is bullshit. I put together this whole thing. I built a whole website around it, and the thing was everybody was going to send in their bullshit stories, and and I was gonna pick out of the thousands that came in. I was gonna pick enough to make a documentary of the most exciting ones, and then I had merchandise that I was going to send whoever sent in. I was going to send him this shirt. Just stop the fucking bullshit, and and that kind of leads me to everything that. A couple of things that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to get into some other stuff. But because I get asked almost every day about my movie and about the TV series and that whole thing, that business is 99% bullshit. However, in my case, it's everything that these major guys are telling me is true. That they're in so much turmoil down there in California and in Hollywood, all the production companies, the networks are fighting with the streaming systems, and the strikes are still going on. And the networks found out that they could make a reality show for $100,000 an episode, where the cheapest TV series it probably cost them $2-3 million an episode. So they're still working all of that out, but there's so much bullshit that goes around. You never get a straight answer from anybody, not only in the movie business, in life in general. It's all about money, connections, and bullshit. Okay. So now, I'm gonna say something that I don't know if this is bullshit or not, but if you remember last week, I wrote a letter right near the end. I think it was right the last couple of minutes of the show. It come from Matt Dale, 15091, whatever that was his name and number that came up, and he wrote a really nice letter. And even Joe Guarino, who was on the show, said, "Boy, that was a really nice letter. It was really heartfelt letter that was really heartwarming." That the guy asked me if he could bet on a horse, and I says, "Don't bet him to win, bet him to place." And he said that he won a lot of money because he wheeled him for second in the exactas, and a long shot came in, and he win a lot of money. I think he won 7,000-8,000 in the exact, and he was a great story, and he was able to get whatever the doctor prescribed for him, and it was like I saved his life. And everybody says, "What a wonderful story. How come you never mentioned it?" And at the end of it, I says, I really don't, just like many others, I don't remember the horse, and I don't remember the race. I just don't remember. And that was the letter that Matt Dale sent to me. Now, the horse that Matt Dale said that I was driving and I told him to bet on was a horse called Starry Hope. And for those of you who are old enough, in 1984, there was a movie that was out called The Pope of Greenwich Village, and it was starring Mickey Rourke and Eric Roberts. And they were two street guys, and they were always in trouble, and they were gambling. And when Eric Roberts got a tip, and he told Mickey Rourke to get as much money as he could, and they went to the racetrack. And when they got to the track, Mickey Rourke says to Eric, "Well, how should I bet this horse, across the board?" And Eric Roberts says, "No, bet him to win. So anyway, the race goes off, and the horse finishes second in a very close photo. But Eric Roberts goes nuts, and Mickey Rourke says, "Look, I bet the horse to place." So now we go back to the bullshit stuff. Now, if I continue with this show, which I paused it because I got so many other things going. This story that Matt Dale sent me about Starry Hope, because I don't ever remembering a horse called Starry Hope. I don't know if he was talking about in Delaware, the racetrack, if it was the harness track or the thoroughbred track. And I just don't remember any of this. And I would never, ever tell somebody to bet for second. I would never do that. So I have to believe that Dale Matt, he just, for whatever reason, he just made up this whole thing. Maybe it's not true, but that's what I believe, because that's exactly what happened in the film, The Pope of Greenwich Village in 1984. So that would be, if I continue with the bullshit club, I just want Matt Dale to know he's gonna get one of these shirts, and I'm gonna use that in one of the episodes. Okay, now we're getting toward the nitty gritty. Here's another one, and this is what led me to do what I'm going to talk about for the rest of the show. This one thing, and it comes from Highland Real Vases, Brick, Sand, Mortar. I guess 9996. I don't know what that means. And he writes, "What do you mean, Larry, when you say the Jockey Club doesn't want to pay for this thing? They will happen when the government takes over. How is the government getting involved?" What he's talking about is HISA. We talked about it very briefly. I knew a little bit about it, but I answered a question on the last podcast, and I said it's getting to the point now where the Jockey Club, who signed off on this, I heard second and third hand that they were having a problem because they didn't want to pay for the blood testing, because the blood testing was astronomical, the fees. Now, so when I got this comment, I started investigating HISA, because I know that a lot of the horsemen are complaining about it, and I didn't really, because I'm not in the business, I really didn't check into it. But Eddie, who's on my show, and my friend is a thoroughbred trainer, as well as another friend of mine who comes on, sees me every Thursday, who trains thoroughbreds in New York. They said that it's really destroying the business and everything else. So I looked into it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before I get into HISA, and that's what all these notes are for, I just want to read to you real quick the reason why HISA was formed. And it was because of the breakdowns in all the horses that were dying in horse races nationwide. So I just to show you how serious it is and why they got involved, I'm just going to read it to you. And I'm just going to read the number of horses that were killed from 20. This list is from 2014 until 2022. Just them years. So what's that? 2014, 6, 7, in 8 years. It's not up to date, but I just got them 8 years. Here's how many horses were killed. In Arizona, 374. Arkansas, 86. California, 890. Colorado, 76. Delaware, 164. Florida, 850. Illinois, 256. Indiana, 238. Iowa, 130. Kentucky, 442. Louisiana, 516. Maryland, 342. Minnesota 104, Nebraska 56, New Jersey 200, New Mexico 653, New York, meaning Aqueduct, Belmont, and Saratoga 972, Ohio 479, Oklahoma 411, Pennsylvania 819, Texas 275, Washington 140, West Virginia 746. All other states 235. That's a lot of fucking horses that died on the racetrack. And that's what brought HISA into the picture, because they had to do something. And I did a whole bunch of research, and I'm going to give you as much information about HISA as I could. Then I'm going to give my remarks, some good and some bad. So anyway, this is HISA. This is their website. You can go right on it. Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. Okay, and it was created in 2020, and it was created by Congress, and that answers the question that they asked me: what does the government have to do with it? Well, the government created it basically because it says the HISA was created by Congress to establish and enforce, under the oversight of the Federal Trade Commission, a national uniform set of rules. As of May 22nd, 2023, HISA anti-doping and medication control program is run by the Horsemen's Integrity and Welfare Unit. Now, that's HIWU. So what HISA did, HISA formed this thing through the Federal Trade Commission. So the government is involved and basically created it. And then what they did, they hired this girl here, Lisa Lazarus. Okay, now she's the chief executive officer. Now, here's her background. She has a strong background in sports business and law, having established and led the equestrian practice at Morgan Law Sports Law, where she represented athletes, owners, trainers in disputes. Now, that's my first problem there, because you would think that you would get somebody that actually trained horses or was directly involved, instead of an attorney who did what she did. But however, that's who they picked. Now, this is what she makes. Her salary is well, we get right to the bottom, over $500,000 a year. And just to show you, let me show you this. This is what the budget is for 2023, which was the first, 2024, which was really the first year they started. Their budget is, you can see, $8,967,416. Now, you can't see it with the pointer, but I will just tell you. On the top line is salaries for these people. Now, every year their budget is $4,096,000. Now, here's who gets that money. She gets $400,000. Then we have this girl here who's an executive assistant. Then we have this guy here. He's a racetrack manager. Then we have this girl here. She's a communications manager. Then we have this guy here. He's the racetrack manager. Then we have this girl here. She's a product manager, whatever that is. Then we have this guy here who's a rider safety and welfare manager. Then we have this girl here who's a veterinarian. Then we have this guy here who's the assistant general counsel. Then we have this girl here who's a compliance veterinarian. Then we have this girl here who's the director of communications. Then we have this girl here who's a director of racetrack safety, liaison to racetrack safety committee. Then we have this guy here who's director of stewarding, state racing commission relations. Oh my God. Then we have this guy here who's IT director. Then we have this girl here who's director of public affairs. Then we have this girl here who's director of equine safety and welfare. Then we have this guy here who's a national medical director. Then we're almost done, folks. Then we have this guy here who's outside general counsel. Then we have this guy here who's a chief technology officer. Then we have this guy here who's chief financial officer. Okay, now what they do, I think this is, I don't know how many people it was. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They got like 19 people. Okay, so 19 people they have just for that unit. Now they have, so they do just what I said. They're with the Federal Trade Commission, and they set uniform rules for the whole thoroughbred racing, not the standardbreds, the thoroughbreds. And as of May 22nd, 2023, they have anti-dope medication control program run by, now they formed another company called the HIWU, which is the Horse Racing Integrity and Welfare Unit, which is an independent enforcement agency of HISA. So now you have these 19 people that do whatever they do, and then they hired this other group here, and the other group is headed by this guy, the HIWU, which is an independent enforcement agency for HISA. HISA controls them. And what they do is they oversee testing, educate stakeholders, accrediting, they check out the laboratories where the bloods are going to be sampled, they investigate potential violations and prosecuting any such violations. Now, here's the guy that's running that. Now, here's his background. He was an executive director of horse racing integrity and welfare, then oversees the implementation of horse racing integrity and safety. Okay, just a lot of stuff. Now, guess how many people he has working with him? I didn't put him up because it's crazy. So his team is, I think, 47 people. And what they do is they meet, here's what he writes. Meet our world-class team, which brings together individuals with extensive experience in anti-doping programs, veterinarian science, investigations, compliance and policy, education, training, and in the thoroughbred industry. Okay. Okay, so now what confuses me is that their website, and if you go to the Federal Trade Commission, they let you know that they are the oversight committee, that they helped form it, they approved it, and everything else. Now if you keep examining this stuff, you know what it's like. It's almost like remember that time Nancy Pelosi says you got to pass the bill so you can see what's in it. It's almost the same thing. It's like unbelievable. The Jockey Club signed this thing, and I don't believe one horseman in the whole thoroughbred industry ever knew what was in it. So they passed it, and after they passed it, they found out what was in it. I have to tell you something. The world, I'm not a political guy, but the world is so fucked up. Everything is so fucked up. And I know because, look, I, I know from experience, you have money and connections, you can get anything done. And I can only say that, thank God, James Madison, in 1787, him and his crew wrote the Constitution. Good fucking thing they came first. Because can you imagine if this bunch of politicians that we have today, and I don't mean who's in office, I mean in the last 20, 30 years, 40 years, if they, all I can say is good thing Madison came first, because it's a fucking joke, and the whole government and everything else. And I know this for a fact because I paid for a lot of things, heavyweight people. I'm not going to get into that, but if you ask me, I will, and I'll tell you how much, and I'll tell you who. But it'll be a long time. So now you dig even further and you start going through the states because they don't have every state. They're trying to get them. So in Florida, Florida writes, the Thoroughbred Horseman Association writes, HISA is described in the bill as a private, independent, self-regulatory, nonprofit corporation that will be governed by its board of directors. What the fuck? I mean, it's two different things depending on what website you look at. Now, I mean, I didn't call them. I didn't call the Florida Horsemen's Association because I already looked up the Federal Trade Commission, and I know that they're the ones that formed it, and they're the ones that control it and oversee it. So it's just unbelievable. It's like it's all over the place, and that's why they passed this thing. They started all this bullshit in 2020, I believe. And through the politics back and forth and everything else, the people that destroyed the fucking industry put together a group of people that are going to charge $80,967,416 a fucking year to fix what they broke. It's unfucking believable. I got news for you. And then if you want to try to join HISA, you got to go through like you were going to get. You wanted to go to the moon. You got to fill out all kinds of forms and everything else, and then they investigate you and let me know. So I'm completely out of the picture. But I would love for this young lady here, I would love to sit down and talk with her, because you know what I would tell her? I would say, listen, I don't know if you're in charge of the money or who your bookkeeper is, but this year, in the last 2 years, you spent, because I have last year's, a year before, and I have 3 years of, you have, in fact, the 2025 budget was approved, and it was a little bit more. I think it was 85 million, something like that. So they're going for like 160, 170 million dollars in 2 years. I'm telling you that me and maybe 2 or 3 other guys that really know and that is sharp, a lot sharper than me. I see, I could talk to somebody like O'Donnell or Campbell, and they know what I'm trying to say. I just have trouble saying what I want to say. It's in my brain, but it don't come out right. But I'd love to sit down with Lisa and just tell her, you know, why don't you give me and Campbell and O'Donnell just half of that money? Why the fuck do you need 20 people in your office, and then hire another company that has, I think they have 47 or 48 people in their company, lawyers and doctors and scientists and everything. Well, for what? I could help you. And not only that, but then they're having where the hell is it? Then they're I have it here someplace. And I'm gonna find it because it's important. They're paying they're paying $370,000 to researchers at the Washington State University for a 2-year study to looking into the impact of the drug Lasix. Are you fucking kidding me or what? Unbelievable. I guarantee you, Lisa, there's no chance of me sitting with you, but John Campbell could probably have a seat with you because I know that you're trying to get into the standardbreds. And John Campbell could probably either that or Joe Feraldo. But either one of them two guys, if they would allow me to sit with you, I could tell you real quick about Lasix, and I can tell you how to solve the problem. You want to know how to solve the problem? Because all of this bullshit, first of all, the people that you're with, meaning the United States government, and let me say this is the best fucking country in the whole world. It's fucked up, but it's not as fucked up as the rest of the world. And it's fucked up because the greed and the corruption and just about not all of them, but enough to make everything a mess. Now, Lisa, the people that allowed you to do this and that okayed it are the ones that caused the problem. Now, they created a problem that I don't know. I know how to fix it, and I'm going to tell you. But the answer I get was when I say it's basically incompetence created this whole thing, and then they say, well, the president, the president of General Motors don't know how to put an engine in the car. Yeah, well, what the fuck's that got to do with anything? He also don't put the guy who builds the car because he's a political friend who sold hot dogs. You put the competent people there. You just put competent people there. Just because you own a hospital, what's that mean? You're going to put all your political friends in there to do heart operation? You put competent people there. What the Racing Commission and the government did, they made the whole racing industry, meaning the Racing Commission, a whole political dumping grounds. They were judges that I come across in racing in the 60 years I was in there that had no fucking clue. No clue. That ever been, 2 or 3 of them I could name, never even been to a racetrack. My good friend, Vinnie Hogan. Vinnie Hogan was my next door neighbor. We grew up together. I left early on. I was gone. He went on to be chief of detectives in New York. Went through the whole police thing and everything. Went to be chief of when he was ready to retire, the government got a hold of him. The Racing Commission got a hold of him, and they asked him if he wanted to be the police commissioner. I mean the racing commissioner, and he said no. He said, because I live in Long Island. At that time, the Racing Commission office was on Bloom Street, Manhattan. He says, but my friend, my underling, my second in command, chief of detectives, is retiring at the same time. He'll take the job. And so that's what happened. So his second in command got the job as race secretary. I mean, as racing commissioner, who was a cop his whole life. Vinny, they gave him the job out in Long Island because that's where he lived as head of mutuals and security at Saratoga, Belmont, and Aqueduct racetracks. That's how I got my license back 1 or 3 times when I lost it, because Vinny found out about it through a street party that they have, and he asked for me. I hadn't seen him since I was 16 years old. And my sister told him the whole story about me. He says, tell him to call me. And I was in California at the time. I called him, and he says, come and see me right away. I flew in. I went to see him at Belmont Park. I told him the whole story. He picked up the phone. He called up the racing commissioner. The racing commissioner at that time was his second in command, who he got the job for. And he asked him a simple question. He says, if you haven't been licensed in 10 years, do you need a renewal or a whole new application? He says, well, a whole new application. He says, who's it for? And he says, Larry Rolla. He says, oh my God, I have a file on him. You can. And he says, and Vinny says to him, send a fucking application. And a week later, I got an application and I got licensed. No hearing and nothing. It kind of backfired a little because when I applied for it in New Jersey, Zanzuki was the head of the racing commission in New Jersey, and he says, okay, he says, you lost your license in New Jersey because of reciprocity, because New York barred you. So show me the hearing that was granted you that where they gave you a license. Well, there was no hearing. So he kind of knew that. He kind of suspected that. But you know what solved that problem? $60,000 in a fucking envelope solved that problem. And when I was granted a hearing, I told my attorney, I says, listen, I says, I gave that envelope to you. That's what you asked for. I says, if I'm asked one question about anything, I want the fucking money back. He says, don't worry about it. Just dress up in a suit and tie. And that's what I did. I went to the hearing at the bottom of the Meadowlands racetrack. They had the commission office down there. And the three judges come out and they said, okay, Mr. Rolla, yes, we have one question to ask you. And I just sat there waiting for it. And he says, did you learn your lesson? I says, that's the question? He says, yes. I says, yeah, I learned my lessons. He said, we'll be right back for you with our decision. They went in the back room. They come back 2 minutes later. We grant you a license. Okay. So that's just one example of the shit that I've been through where money, power, connections, it gets you through anything. Now, back to HISA. Now, this drug business that you're going to try to fix is so far out of hand. It's you know what it's like? It reminds me a little bit of it, maybe bad analogies. But I remember one day when Manny Halbert come up to me, we were having dinner, me, Slutsky, Manny Halbert, Bobby Parker from the Concord. We were having dinner one night, and they were talking about how much they were getting robbed during the summertime by the bartenders. So they asked me to have a talk with the bartenders and see if I can get them to stop robbing so much. And I did. I went because I knew them all, and their answer to me was tell them to go fuck themselves. So naturally, I didn't give them that message back. But so what they did was when it continued, they found ways to monitor. I don't know anything about this stuff. I don't drink. Monitor the bottles where they could tell it was hooked up to the bottle, hooked up to a computer, to a register, and everything else. So they thought that would fix the problem. Well, they were robbing before this thing that they did. They were robbing basically 10% of whatever the take was for the night. After they tried to stop them, now they were robbing 20 and 30 and 40%. Fuck them. They found a way within an hour how to beat the system. The same thing with the cars. Years and years ago, you'd buy a car in 1950, 1960, even in the 70s. You'd buy a car that maybe 10 years old, had 30,000 miles on it. The real miles were 230,000, but they turned back all the speedometer, and all them guys in the car business made millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, when all these guys that were wholesale guys, when they made all them millions of dollars, they all had enough money to buy their own dealerships, and they start dealing with the with the companies, the manufacturers, whether it be General Motors or Ford or anything, and they were telling them about this problem. And then before you know it, you couldn't turn back these speedometers no more, because they were hooked up to the rear, not only the transmission, but then to the rear end, the transmission, and then when computers came out, into the computers and everything else. So guess what? Within a day, the thieves found a way how to, of course, so back then, maybe 10 years ago, for $100, they would take the whole dashboard apart, 1, 2, 3, and they would turn back the mileage. So what do you want it? 30,000? Okay, 30. So they take a lease car or whatever, and or if car you wanted to trade in, and they would take the mileage from, say, 150,000 down to 25,000. And if so, you're spending $80 million a year, and I'm sure it's going to go higher and higher and higher and higher, because here's another thing. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see what it says here for lab testing. Lab testing right now, it says $21 million. $21 million, and they just started, and they're still not catching everything. So you could imagine they're going to wind up spending 30, 40, 50 million dollars. And that's why the Jockey Club is probably going fucking nuts. It's just unbelievable. The other company that they formed, the HIWU, they pay them $38 million a year. $38 million a year to do what they're doing. And then, you could see, you could run it down. Professional services, $9 million. Legal fees, $2 million. It's a fucking joke. So you're never going to stop it. You're never going to catch it. You guys created this problem. You're not going to be able to fix it. Now, let me tell you my idea. I haven't really thought about it, because I've been out of the game now a long time. But I'll tell you this. In just the last couple of days that I've been thinking about it, how can you solve this problem? The first thing you have to solve is you see this thing that I read, all these horses that died. That's where I get it wrote. Okay, all these horses that died. That's why that company HISA was created, to stop that. Now, what they're doing, this is my opinion now, what they're doing is realizing that they can't fix it. They broke it, but they can't fix it, but everybody's making a lot of money. I mean, she seems like a really nice girl, young girl. But $500,000 a year, and all she did was form this company. That's what she did. She formed this company that does all the work. So I don't think they're ever going to be able to stop it. It got too far, and there's too many shots. Look, you can make all the gun laws in the world. The crooks will always find a gun. You could stop anything. You stop alcohol during the Prohibition. They found alcohol. You ain't ever going to stop it. And the reason you started this whole thing was supposed to be to save the racehorse and the jockeys. That's the whole thing. Well, there ain't nothing that you did. Now, what you did now was you put this thing together to save the racehorses, the jockeys, and the trainers, and the owners, and everybody involved by making one uniform rule for the whole United States. That's good. That's a good rule, because lasex in one state, you can't go into this and that. It's all bullshit. It's crazy. So that was good that you did. But that's where you're going to be where you're going to be successful, it kind of ends, because there's no way you're going to stop. You could test, you can make every test be send it send it to whoever you want. Send it to Germany, send it to China, send it to NASA. They're still going to come up with drugs, combination of drugs that there's no test for, that you're just never going to stop it. Trust me. Now, if you really want to help the horses and the jockeys and the owners and the trainers, here's how you help them. Give them a fucking chance. What you people are doing is slamming the fucking door. You're not giving the horses a chance to recuperate. You're not giving the horses a chance to be helped. You're not giving the jockeys a chance to recuperate. You're not giving the trainers a chance to make any money for their owners, and the fucking owners are going to wind up going broke. Now, I read some kind of statistic that, okay, there've been a couple of less fatalities in the last year because of what you did. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but let me just say this. Why don't you just, because you're never going to stop it. There has to be a way, and I'll just make this up as I'm going. What if you just paused racing at every racetrack for 30 days and kept every horse in quarantine, every thoroughbred racehorse in quarantine for 30 days? Now, before you shut this off, just listen to me. After 30 days in quarantine, take their blood. And then after you got their blood, now this is what the blood looks like on a horse that was given in quarantine, that was given absolutely nothing. That's his blood. That's his blood count. The whole chemistry is right there, clean, with nothing in it. Then allow a certain amount of steroids to help recuperate. Allow the jockeys to gain 5 pounds. Allow milkshakes. And what milkshakes do, for the people that don't understand, is that all that does is eliminate the lactic acid. In eliminating the lactic acid, lactic acid buildup is when the muscles start burning, and that's when they start losing their action and everything, and slipping and sliding and all of that kind of stuff causes more lameness problems than anything else. So now you're helping the horse. We'll just talk about horses now. You're helping the horse. You're helping the trainer help the horse by giving every horse, if you want Lasix, even though that's another story, but Lasix, a milkshake, and after the race, steroids, a steroid shot, even if it's 5 cc's of Winstrol. Just give the horse something that he can recuperate faster and completely rehydrate him. Give him 5-6 jugs, and at least you're helping the horse. Now you're allowed for that. Now all you have to do is test for them 4 things. Anything more than the blood, anything that shows up in a blood test besides the milkshake, the effects from the milkshake, the steroid, and also allow injections. Allow a horse to get an ankle injected within 2 weeks of a race. That's a crazy rule. Allow jockeys to use the whip. That's another crazy rules. There's people in charge that don't. I guarantee you, out of the 50 people that one organization has, and the 19 people you have, how many ever been to a racetrack? How many ever been in a barn? How many ever trained a horse? How many know what the fuck they're talking about? Now, you have these 4 things. You're allowed to inject within 2 weeks of a race. And they finally, I got it here someplace. Finally, after 2 years, where the fuck is it? They finally, look at this. 4 new members joined HISA Horseman Advisory Group. Finally, They got Todd Pletcher. They finally, of all the people that are advising them, they finally got a fucking trainer. Okay? Now, I want to see what he's got. And this is what the Standardbreds want. They want to sit down with that girl, Lisa, whatever her name is, and just make some concessions. Because what you're doing, slamming the door, stopping everything, you're killing the horses. You're killing them. And you're killing the trainers and you're killing the whole fucking industry thinking that, oh, we're going to make, you ain't ever going to make it. You ain't ever going to make it. You think by slamming the door, trust me, they're going to be coming out with more potent shit that's going to kill more fucking horses. They're going to come up with all kinds of cocktails and everything else. You ain't ever going to allow them to help the horse. Allow a milkshake. We'll stop. It won't make them go any faster. It'll just stop the lactic acid. It'll stop the muscles from tying up, so they don't have. So they're not floundering all over the place and slipping and sliding. Give them a steroid right after the race. Give them the Lasix if you want to give them, and allow them to help to inject the joint within 2 weeks of a race. That's because years ago when I was in the business, they checked for 7 things. And the testing was easy. Testing costs $150. Today they're spending, I think, $2,000-$3,000 on every fucking test, and it's going to go higher and higher and higher, and you're not helping nothing. Now, if you do what I say, quarantine for 30 days, get the blood. Now, after you do all of that, you're doing everything to help the trainer, the owner, the jockey, and the horse. You're giving them everything that's needed. You're giving them stuff to recuperate. You're giving them stuff so they don't falter on a racetrack. You're giving them maybe let them have maybe 10 cc's of butazolone the day before. All of that is very easy to test for. Okay? Now, once that happens and you take the blood, they can't be, and a horse comes up positive, they can't be an appeal because you have the horse in quarantine. You know what the blood is when nothing is in the blood. So you're only allowed this. You only allowed them things that I just mentioned. Then you're barred for life. Barred for life. Why the fuck are you going to give a guy 10 years, 5 years? You're barred for life. But you're giving everybody an even shot. Just like somebody said to me in harness racing, well, Bulldog Hanover win, or well, he was hooked up to a cheetah bike. Isn't that unfair? No, it's not unfair. The other guys in the race could have had a cheetah bike. You have any bike you want. They didn't want a cheetah, but this way, every horse will get a milkshake. Every horse will get a steroid. Every horse will get 10 cc's of butazolone the day before the race. Every horse will go into the race sound fit, and that will create a level playing field. Because believe me, there is nothing you can give a horse to make him go faster than he was meant to go. These things that I just said will keep a horse with the steroids and the bute happy and sound in mind, as long as he's relatively sound, and that's the answer. Now, I'm starting to go all over the fucking place. So this is going to be a short podcast because it's been almost an hour now, and I'm going to end it there. But that's all I had to say. I don't really understand HISA, but that's as much as I could. They're only been around now for 2 years, and I can tell you that every thoroughbred trainer that I spoke to, and I spoke to, but they won't come on the show, but they'll talk to me over the phone, and maybe 15 or 20 of them, and they're all very, very unhappy with the Jockey Club signing off without talking to anybody. I don't understand it. If that is the case, they're all unhappy, and what you're doing, Lisa, is you're not helping the horse. You slam the door. You slam the door thinking that now they can't use nothing. Well, they're gonna, just like the bartenders found out, and just like the guys in the car business found out, they have the most sophisticated The most sophisticated, I think it's the new Audi that come out. It's impossible if you have a new Audi and it's say it's or whatever, and you have say you travel a lot and you have 200,000 miles on it and the car's only 2 years old, uh, and you go to the regular people that turn it back. There's already a thing out there, and they're all going by. Costs $100,000 that could bypass it. That could bypass and you could turn back the mileage. Is so as sophisticated it is with the computers and the sensors and the wheels and the transmission and everything else. They have a way right now. The thing it costs $100,000, and you're getting 4 or 5 guys all chipping in to buy this thing, and they're charging a guy $2,500, $3,000 to turn it back, but it's worth it because if you had to pay for the extra mileage, it's 20,000. So that's just an example. So no matter what you try to do, Lisa, it ain't gonna work. They're always gonna find a drug or something, and it's going to hurt the horse more because it becomes all experimental, just like when elephant juice came into play. They must have killed 1,000 horses before they found the right dosage. Now, just in case you're listening, Lisa, and you don't know, elephant tranquilizer is a tranquilizer if you give it to elephants. But if you give it to a horse, it acts as a stimulant with the right dose. And it acts as an unbelievable stimulant and painkiller. So you got to find the right dosage. So they figure, well, an elephant weighs so many pounds with this, it don't work like that. After killing hundreds of horses trying to find the right dosage, you know what the right dosage is? Fill up the syringe, shoot it all back into the bottle, and whatever is left in the hub of the needle, that's the right dosage. And it's an unbelievable stimulant and painkiller. That if you do what I say, but you have to know the blood. Now you could as the older horses disappear and the new horses come up, you can get the blood from the time they're yearlings or 2-year-olds, and just get the blood at that time. So you don't even have to really put them in quarantine. Anyway, I'm starting to get to the point where I don't know what I'm talking about. That's as much investigation as I did. I hope I kind of explained it the right way. I think there's probably 30, I don't even know now, maybe 30 thoroughbred racetracks in the country. I don't know why the fuck you need close to 100 people to do what you have to do. And what you have to do is you're going to have forever. You're going to have to double your money for the attorneys because you're going to get sued. You're going to go crazy with appeals because they're always going to have an excuse. Well, this and the environment and this guy coughed in the stall and the hay that I got from Virginia, they were spraying it. You're going to get a million excuses when all you have to do is just get the blood, quarantine the horse, get the blood. And if anything shows up, the guy's barred for life. And that's it. Now, I don't know if that could be done, but anyway, I don't see any other way. But that's it. I'm done. I'm done for today. I'm going to get her picture out of there. Then I'm gonna end this. So for those of you who shut me off because you don't even know what I'm talking about, for those of you who are in the horse business, I hope this brings a little light. And I'm anxious to see now that Todd Fletcher just joined the Horseman Advisory Group. Maybe he'll get some of these rules loosened up and allow you to do certain things that are on the books now. Okay, folks, thanks for. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to comments. Let's see if I have any comments. Because, folks, I have nothing else to do except walk my dog. So let me go down to see these comments. I started this thing. I kind of like this. Okay, let's see this. Okay. Hello, Larry. Hello, everybody. Sundance. Hello, Sundance. Let's see. Jesse Black. Welcome, everybody, to Larry Rolla Live. You know what I got to do? I got to tell them to hit like. I think Tommy Stiggs told me that if you hit like, it means something. I don't know what the fuck it means, and I don't even know how to hit like. Okay. Sundance. Hiya, Jesse. Oh, they're going back on a love affair here. Hiya, Sundance. How are you tonight? Okay. Good, thanks. Okay. Gary D. Do you remember Doc? And I can't say that name, from Buffalo, Batavia Downs. No, the only time I was in Buffalo was I think in 59 to 60, something like that, whenever I got my first license. So I don't know anybody from up there. Okay, let's see. Matt Gray. Larry, is it true you were a consultant on the movie Easy Easy Money with Joe Pesci? No, but Billy Popfinger was in that movie. He was the driver. He was the one that they dragged down the racetrack. Billy Popfinger's a good guy, good friend. Okay, Matt Gray and Rodney Dangerfield, right? Matt Gray. There was a key harness racing scene where the driver is attacked by Pesci. Yeah, that was Billy Popfinger, I think. It was a long time ago, but I'm almost positive it was Billy Popfinger that Pesci attacked. David Snyder, that's Joe's friend. Larry, Little Brown Jug on Thursday must bring back some memories of Jeb and that disaster. Do you ever think about it? Jeb had been driven properly and won, how your life would have changed. Well, it wouldn't have changed. I would have had 1/3 of $3 million. I would have had $1 million. I had that a few times in my life. It don't last very long. I felt bad for the horse. I mean, the horse's leg snapped. I showed that picture a couple of times on here. I just felt terrible for the horse. But my life wouldn't have changed that much. Okay, Eddie Hart is the nicest guy in the world. Haven't seen him in many, many years. You're right, Sundance. Really good kid. Good kid. Eddie Hart was a classy guy. Jesse Black. Matt Gray. I want to hear about the guy, Gary, who Larry and his partner stiffed. What is this? I want to hear about the guy, Gary, who Larry and his partner stiffed when they ran that drag show in Orlando. I want to hear about the guy, Gary, who Larry and his partner. Oh, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the lacrosse show that I had in Orlando. It was a very, very successful show. In fact, Matt Gray, you must know Gary, you must know everybody involved. What happened was my partner was Sal Sanzaro, and when the place was sold to them Hindu Indians or whatever, and we had to get out because it was against their religion to rent us the place. Sal, and then I naturally hired an attorney to try to fight it because I had a 10-year contract with the guy that who I rented it from, who owned it before. Anyway, during that time, Sal emptied out all the bank accounts, and he took off, and he went back to Florida. And when he didn't show up for a couple of days, I was notified by the guy who was doing all the bookkeeping and everything that there was no money in the bank, and that was it. That was the story. He ran away with all the money, and that was it. I paid as much as I could pay, and I had no money. Whatever money I had was what was in my pocket. Everything was in the bank accounts. And so anyway, that was it. So when I want to hear about the guy, Gary, who Larry and his partner stiffed Yeah, he did get stiffed, and Gary was a good guy. He was the MC of the show. He did an unbelievable job. He happened to be that whole cast was a good cast. It killed me because I couldn't even pay for their trips back to California, and it really bothered me a lot. But Gary, from what I understand, I see him on Facebook once in a while. He's continuing with the road show, and I think he's doing well. And that's one of the sins that I have to live with. That these poor guys that worked hard, including the office guys, they all everybody left there with no money. I had to call up and borrow money to get back and get a place to stay here. So that's the story, Matt Gray. Okay, here's another one from Jesse. Do you know if Larry was a consultant on Easy Money? Okay. I don't know, Matt. The answer is no, Matt. Thanks, Jesse. Great movie. Sundance, love the Pope. David Snyder, Hoover Downs is easy money from Pompano Park, I think. I've never been there. Tom Ham, Pompano, 100%. Yeah, it was a great place. I love going down there. But they sold it just like everything else. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. Same thing with Roosevelt Raceway. It's all about the money. And the same thing is going to happen to Yonkers Raceway. The same thing. Same thing is going to happen to Gulfstream Park. You watch. Jeffrey B. Love watching Monticello. Only 4 days a week, 7 races. I have to get there someday. You know, somebody wrote me a letter. I forgot who it was, but I answered him. I told him he was correct because I was running my mouth one day and I said that they're still racing for $1,100, $1,200 purses up in Monticello, and everything else went up to 10 times. And he corrected me. He says they're racing now for minimum purse. I think it was $4,000, and he's correct. But you know, it don't cost $20 to shoe a horse. Now it costs $150. So I guess it's all relative. Tom Ham, HISA has trainers as consultants. This is like J. Edgar Hoover Consulting, consulting with Dillinger and Nelson. HISA has trainers as consultants. This is like J. Edgar Hoover Consulting with Don Dillinger. Okay. David Snyder, seems like 80 million HISA budget is totally wasted. Seems like Larry, Joe, and Eddie could meet over some nice pasta and sauce and wine and accomplish more at the cost of about a few. But I'll tell you one thing, and I really believe this. I wish I had a clean. I wish I didn't take the path I took, because I'm sure I would have been in the Hall of Fame. And if I was, I would have really got together with John Campbell and Joe Feraldo. And I would have said, let's go meet this Lisa girl from HISA. And because in one way, these horses do need help. They need a lot of help. But the way that and they need help in the harness racing business too. And HISA is trying to get into harness racing. But it's and if I was able to meet with Feraldo, because I know Feraldo's my friend and so is John Campbell. I just can't get involved with that because of my reputation, because of my history. But I really believe that if we sat down and talked with Lisa and her crew, they'd be less lawsuits. They'd be less of everything. Anyway. JW, Larry, please tell us who you paid off and how much. Names. Well, it all went through attorneys. So what they did with the money, I was just told that to come with, it's going to cost you. They had connections and how much it was going to cost. In one instant, I had to come up with $60,000 in cash and put it in a manila envelope, which I did. I gave it to the attorney. And and he took care of everything. And that happened 2 different times with me, and that's it. And there were many other times because of connections and money, but it had nothing to do with horse racing. Did you ever meet or no? No, he has a podcast, but I never met him. Do you know that deer guy? That deer? No, I don't know him. I never met him. I know he was good friends with Michael Franchise, but I never met him. Team Bitcoin. Oh, there's Team Bitcoin. Larry paid off Mayor Lindsay. No, I didn't, but there are a lot of people that he got a lot of envelopes from a lot of them OTB stuff. Okay, Bitcoin. Larry paid off Mayor. Okay, who did I pay off now? Koch. They were all the mayors during the OTB stuff. Let's see this one. I don't know him. Larry paid off New York Mayor Thomas, 1665. Team Bitcoin. He's going to be on the show, Team Bitcoin. He's going to be on the show. We're going to finally see what he looks like, and he's going to give us. He seems like a pretty sharp guy, so we'll see. Short Fridays. What are we talking about, bro? Let's hear some mob stuff. Man, one of these. You know what? Maybe. See, I have a problem because I have some friends that hate government informants, and I have some friends who are government informants, and the reason I can stay friendly with both sides is because I try to stay in my own space, my own lane. The only thing I really know about is horse racing, and so. I can only tell you about the experiences I had with the few people that I was involved with Tommy Lucchese and Frank Lucasio and Gotti, and I mean I know a lot of them. I try to avoid them when I was going to the track in OTB because once you run into them, you got to give them the information that you have, and so. But I was involved with them all. But we're talking about 50 years ago. I don't remember their names, but there were a few. But they're all over you. They're all over YouTube now. All the stories. So what can I possibly say? I have a couple of stories. I'll tell you. I'll tell you one story. I'm not going to go into that. But I have a story that I told Larry Mazza that he didn't even know about, and. So every once in a while, because of my involvement, you know, I hear, but it's not enough to do a whole week after week after week after week. This is the only thing. I could sit here and answer questions from anybody around the world about horse racing, about conditioning, training, rigging, anything, lameness. What can I never killed anybody, so I'm nothing to talk about. Okay, JW, horse racing wrong or scumbag? Horse racing wrong or scumbag people? They've been around a while scamming. Horse racing wrong or scumbag people? I don't know what that means. I guess he might be even talking about me. I don't know. Horse racing wrong or scumbag people? I don't know what that means. Patrick, good show. Larry, good show. Oh, good, Patrick. Patrick Smith. Good. Thank you, Patrick. These are chemists, not trainers. You got a point. You got a point, Pamela. Sundance. Are they? Baywatch. Larry Rolla, salute. Salute to you, Baywatch. Sundance. All they did was give bureaucrats jobs that know nothing about horses. They have broken this business up so much. Correct. Donald, were you familiar with the South Florida talk show host Neil Rogers? He was a huge harness racing fan and attended Pompano Park regularly. Neil Rogers. I knew when I was no, I have to. I knew everybody at Pompano Park. I knew the owners. I knew the Alan Finkelson. The I knew everybody there, but I didn't know him. I don't think I knew him. I don't know. Donald, I meant talk show host Neil Rogers. I don't know. I might have met him because whenever I would always be sitting with Alan Finkelson or the people that owned the track. I can't even think of their name. I was going to buy his house too. In fact, we were going to try. Uh, uh, Larry Cadiz was going to try to buy Pompano Park too, and the people that own the racetrack, I can't think of their name. Very wealthy, famous people. He had a house for sale for $3 million. I was going to buy the house. It was right on the ocean. The father of the son that ran the track. Oh God, I can't think of their name. Terrible. Mike, hey Larry, Eddie Hart is one of the best when it comes to young horses. Very patient guy. Excellent, excellent. You're right on. You're right on, Mike. Mike, we need to have harness track in Orlando, Florida, next to Disney World, Universal Studios, and Animal Kingdom. It would be a win-win for horsemen. Well, they better get this whole thing straightened out, otherwise harness racing will be nowhere around. Great show, Larry. Thanks, Sundance. Baywatcher, Larry, did you ever meet any Chicago guys like Tony Spilotro? Baywatch, I suggest you read my book or go back to some of the podcasts that I did. Yes, I met Tony Spilotro through Frank Collada took me to Vegas when I met Tony Spilotro, and I met him 2 or 3 other times after the first initial meeting. So in fact, I do a whole podcast about him and Frank Collada, I believe. I don't know which one it is. There's almost 90 of them out there. But if you want to read about it, just buy the book. The book is still available. It's called Against All Odds by Larry Rolla, and you can get it on Amazon. And the book talks all about that stuff and a lot of stuff, even though the book is only 10% of my life, but there's some information in there. Okay, JW, giving envelopes to attorneys to get things done in the courts was common. Don't know if it still is. Let me tell you something, JW. When it comes to winning profits, there's no more line of morality. Everything is out the window. So anything is, and I don't know one person that turned down a brown envelope. Okay, Martha. Good evening, Larry Rolla. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Martha. Is that how you say that? Not Martha, Martha. The reason Martha, because when there's a story in my book about the Danny Manrique, the drug guy, and he had his sidekick was a girl called Martha, just like that, Martha. She was Colombian. Beautiful, beautiful girl. Okay, Martha. Hello, Baywatcher. Short fuse. Larry, did you fix races at Freehold Raceway? Well, There were a lot of fixed races at Freehold Raceway. I had nothing to do with fixing them, but I participated in a few. John Platino, I guess no Story Hope stories. Yeah, yeah, Johnny, I mentioned it. I mentioned it. For those of you who still listening, Johnny Platino was the one who called me up and told me that he thinks that this guy, whatever his name was fooling with me. I said it earlier, Johnny. Yeah, Matt Dale. Matt Dale. I said it in the beginning of this program that Matt Dale was, and I told him about the horse Starry Hope. Yeah, I did mention it. That Pope of Greenwich Village, Mickey Rourke, and yeah, I went through the whole thing, Johnny. I did mention it. Uh, and for you folks out there, Johnny was the one that called me up, and he told me that that this guy Matt Dale might be messing with me because the same exact story that he told me, that Matt Dale told me, happened in the Pope of Greenwich Village in 1984. And right after Johnny called me that night, I got the Pope of Greenwich Village on a television, and I watched it, and sure enough, everything that Johnny said was true. That Starry Hope was the horse that Eric Roberts told Mickey Rourke to bet, and yeah, I told that whole story, Johnny, and thank you for letting me know. Thanks for watching, Johnny. I hope you're all right. Okay, let's see. Kelly. Hi, everyone. I don't know what Kelly that is. Maybe it's Kelly Jones. I don't know. Kelly Jones, my beautiful, beautiful friend. Joe Garino. Hey, Larry. Eddie Hart is the best trainer and most patient for breaking young horses. If I ever had a yearling, he would be my number one choice by far. A lot of people feel that way. I know that he got to a point where he was training more than he can handle, and but you're right. He's a great kid, and a good trainer, excellent trainer. Okay, James 9Y. What's that mean? I don't know what that means. David Schneider, Larry, isn't lactic acid the body's way of telling you that you should stop? Correct. But the horse doesn't have a choice in a race. Correct. Seems like that milkshake is the only way to go. Well, if lactic acid starts to build up, I said this on one of the podcasts. Lactic acid starts to build up right around the half-mile pole. And I told him, I says, if you're not going to allow milkshakes or allow trainers to feed their horses baking soda, make every race a half-mile race. Why do you have to make a race 7 furlongs or a mile and a quarter, a mile and a half, knowing that after a half a mile, their muscles are going to be burning? And why do that? And then from there starts all kinds of slipping and sliding. And but you're right, David. Okay, let's see. Mike, we need to get harness racing away from TVG and move it to ESPN, which would open the door to reality TV deals, which will be interesting. Yeah, but it's first of all, I have a way to get people to the racetrack, and maybe I'm going to do a podcast on that. I have a way. I guarantee you, I have a way that I could fill up the grandstand right now. If you go to the Meadowlands, there's nobody there. You go to Monticello, there's nobody there. I guarantee you. I'm going to do a podcast on that. How I can get people there. and fill up the place every day, every night. Simple. I should do a podcast about that. Team Bitcoin, don't forget to hit the like button. Very good. And subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified for future podcasts. Well, I do the podcast every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 o'clock. As far as hitting the bell, hit the like button, I don't even know where it is. But maybe you people have it wherever you're watching. But hit the like button because they said Tommy Stig says it does something. I don't know. Okay. Gary D. Did a great job tonight, Larry. Gary D. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Gary. Good guy. Okay, folks, that's it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to end the show. So I have to go to end the show. Closing. Opening, closing. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back on Thursday. Maybe I'll do a podcast Thursday about how I could fill the grandstands because I know it would work. It's the only thing that would work. And if Lisa allows me to to help her, we could straighten the whole harness racing game out. Okay. In the meantime, it's been an hour and 32 minutes, an hour and a half, all by myself. I don't think I made any mistakes. So I'm going to end it. And thank you all for tuning in. And I'll see you Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So keep your cards and letters coming in. See you around.